In this video, I'm going to talk about method and constructor overloading. You might want to import this project classes and objects extended, and in that open up the file overloading.java. Let's expand this. Sometimes you want to give two methods the same name, just as here. But in that case, they should vary in terms of signature. These two methods in here are having the same name, including the case, but they vary in terms of signature. When I say signature, it can vary based on the number of parameters that we send. In this case it's 2, and in this case it's 3. Or it can also vary in terms of the data type of these parameters. Now when we call this method, depending on number of parameters, the method will be called, or depending on the type of data as well. I've created an object of maths class, and then I'm calling object.addition, and with 2 parameters. Now any guess on which method will get invoked? It should be this, since we're taking 2 parameters. By the way, why do you want to have 2 methods with same name? That's because these 2 methods are essentially doing the same. They're trying to find the sum of all the parameters that you send. For the sake of readability, you might want to give the same name for both these methods. Okay, now going back, if we have another parameter here, which is 60, now this statement will call this method, and this statement will call this method. If you try to run the program, you would get 30 as the result of this instruction, and you would get 110 as the result of this instruction. Now let's try to add another method. Let me copy this code, this method, and change this to double. We will have a compilation error here because we're trying to find the sum of a double variable and an integer variable. Double takes more memory than integer, so obviously the result cannot be of type int. So the return value that we send must be double as well. Let's do Alt-Shift F to give proper indentation. Now we can change, or let's add another statement. We can say 10.1 or 10.3, whatever. This instruction would result in calling this method. All of these 2 methods are having the same name, including the case, as well as same number of parameters. They are differing in the signature in terms of the data type. If I get rid of this method, do we see errors? We don't. Let's save the file. Why do we not see the errors? Because we're sending a couple of parameters, and this method would certainly suffice it. The parameter 10 is of type int while sending this parameter, but when receiving it, we have typecasted it into a double value. And it's not possible the other way. For example, if I'm sending a double value from here, and if I'm expecting an integer variable, then that's not possible. If you have gone through my video on typecasting, you would better understand this. So this works like charm. Let's undo, save the file. Now what if I change this type to double? We do get, okay, let's change the return type here. We do get an error. Where? Here. Because there is an ambiguity. We're calling addition and we're sending a couple of integers. Now compiler is not able to figure out which method to be invoked. Should it be this or this? This ambiguity causes the compilation error. Let's undo those changes. Let's run the program. Great, the result is as expected. Now let's take a look at constructor overloading. Same as methods, we might want to have constructors with the same name but with different signature. I don't have any constructor in this class. That means a default constructor is created. However, I can create my own constructor. Maths int x int y, and let's have a couple of variables in here. Int x int y, and I said this dot x equals x, this dot y equals y. We will certainly have an error here because when we write a constructor on our own, there won't be any default constructor generated. While creating this object, we're not sending any parameters, so either we have to send a couple of parameters here or we have to write a constructor without any parameters, like so. And in this, I just don't want to do anything at all. So I could create another object with parameters 10 and 40. Need to give a different name, say object 2. This instruction will call the no parameter constructor, then this will call the constructor with couple of parameters which are of type int. Even in case of constructors, the signature matters, the type of variables and the number of variables that you're going to have as part of the constructor. Now sometimes you want to call this constructor from another constructor. For example, in this particular constructor, I don't want to set the value of x. I just want to take the value of y. So we get rid of it here as well. Save the file. Here we have a problem, right? Because we're not initializing this variable x. So how do we handle that? We call this empty constructor from here using the keyword called this. And as we've talked in our earlier videos, that this means the current object. And do take a note that the statement in here has to be the first statement. Let's say I do Control X and paste it over here. That's going to give me a compile time error. Let's undo. Now doing so, we're assigning our own value to y and we're leaving the x to have the default value. Hope that makes sense.